What's going on, Niner fam? It is Peter Lucas. I got with me today Jamal Armstrong, and then I know you guys were expecting Niner Nate, but it is Twin, and that is definitely not Niner Nate up there. It is
Halloween,
Twin,
baby.
Twin Empire. But today we're gonna have a lot to talk about, and this is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. Hey everybody, and once again it is Peter Lucas. I got Twin and I got young Jamal Armstrong with me today. Haven't seen Jamal in a minute, but hey guys, how you doing? And why don't you start Twin first? Why don't you tell them where they can find you on the socials?
All right, well, what's up? What's going on this wonderful, terrific Tuesday, man? Twin Tuesday. Let's talk. But nah, man. You can hit me up on Twitter, man. Twin Empire ×2 is right there, man. And then also you can find me on YouTube. It just says Twin Empire, but don't put a space in between the Twin and Empire, but keep them together. That's where you can find me on the tube.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you, Jamal?
Yeah, once again, good to see you guys. I'm excited to do this podcast with the both of you. Twin, I know we've talked a few times and we've talked to each other on Twitter. It's good to do an official show with you.
Yes,
Mr. James Harden, as I like to say over there. Mr. James Harden. Yeah, that's right. Hit him with the Euro. But no, I'm doing really well. Peter, as always, good to see you again. I know it's been, I don't know how long it's been since we've done the show. What, 6 months?
Yeah, it's been a few
closing
months.
in. Hey, but you've been putting in work, so I'm very proud to see what you've been doing. I've been, tweeting it out here and there, but you've had a lot of good different people on your show. Shout out to you. I wanted to give you your flowers for that. You've been killing it. I know that not necessarily all of the eyes that I think should be seeing it are seeing your content, but you know what? It's not just about that. It's about doing it for the love of the game, for the love of talking about it, and I'm happy for you and keep doing what you're doing. I think it's been awesome. But yes, you can find me. You're welcome. You can find me on Twitter. My title is very similar to my name right here, which is Young Ja, but add 49, the numbers 49 and ER. So Young Ja 49er. That is my handle on Twitter. I do post there pretty often. I'd like to tweet sometimes throughout the game. I co-host with Niner Nate, who would have been on with us tonight. I co-host with him on a show on his channel. So you can find me on Niner Nate's Nonsense on YouTube. I also do a show with Amin the Dream. I believe we'll do a show this week as well. We're still ironing out some details, but if you follow me on Twitter, you'll definitely be able to be tapped into when I do go live. I tweet from there. But yeah, excited to talk about this game. Excited to get into what the next half of the season could look like for the 49ers. And I know we're 8 games into the season. I'm still trying to figure out exactly who this team is. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, but it's just really good to talk to people after a win. And that's really what it comes down to today. We're still celebrating from Sunday because I mean it hasn't necessarily been the season that we necessarily thought it was going to be. I mean Jimmy starting, and we thought we'd be seeing Trey. A whole lot of things are happening a little bit differently. We have CMC now, and that looks a whole lot different. And it's just a lot. It's a lot of things have been going down. And today there was a huge trade. I want to mention it right off the bat. Jeff Wilson, they traded him to Miami, and big ups to Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson has been a really good piece of this team for 5 years now.
5 years,
it's sad to see you go. But we always hate to see our the players that we like go. But I mean, they did get a 5th round pick for him, and I think this is it could open up the way for some of these young guys to get some time in, but we'll see how that goes. I also wanted to mention Like I don't know if everybody can see the sticker on my hat, but like I voted today. I want to make sure that we get that word out, like that everybody needs to be everybody. It's a national voting time, like so everybody needs to go out and vote. We can't complain about anything if we don't go out there and make our voices heard. So I just wanted to make sure I wore that today. And it doesn't matter who you vote for. It just go out there and vote, make your voice heard. But let's start off with the huge win. They beat the Rams 31-14. Do we think that this was, and I'm going to start with you, Jamal. Do you think that this was a get right game for the 49ers? And did it kind of seem like the offensive issues were solved in this, or are we still going to be on like a wait and see attitude?
That's a great question. If you look at my timeline and the things that I post throughout the week, especially when we play, by the way, my timeline on Twitter, by the way, when we play the Rams, and mainly when we play the Rams and Sean McVay, I've always said it is a get right game. It is, right? Because we've dominated them for the past like 4 years. I know for a fact Jimmy Garoppolo has never lost to the Rams in the regular season. Now he has lost to them, the game that mattered the most. They do have those bragging rights. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty and you talk about this matchup, the 49ers versus the Rams, it's been 49ers. And I actually saw a stat. Did I cut out? Can you hear me?
You
okay,
good?
Cool. I thought I cut out for a second.
Yeah,
I saw a stat that said, okay, good. I was seeing a stat. I forgot who shared it, but someone said that Kyle Shanahan, like almost 20% of Kyle Shanahan's win, I think it was 12% of Shanahan's wins have come against the Rams. And to me, I mean, that's good and bad, right? You want to have more wins, but you do play, a team in your division. You play them twice a year. So on one end, it makes sense. And I'm glad that you can dominate an opponent that you're going to see consistently like that. That's huge. That to me is signs of a good coach, to be able to get your players up consistently and for a game like this, right? To win, how many is that straight? I think it's 8 straight regular season, obviously, besides the one in the NFC Championship game. But to have your players get up week after week for those games says a lot about your coach. It says a lot about your coaches, I should say, not just one coach. It says a lot about your coaches. I think it says a lot about your players as well, too. So, yes, if you were to ask me, is it a get-right game? Yes, because I think we just match up very well with them, which is kind of funny to say because you have a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I wouldn't say he's a tier 1. I'd say he's probably a tier 2, a step below your top tier type guys. But he has the talent and the arm talent, I think, to be a tier 1 type guy. So that said, you have a good quarterback in him. You obviously have a great receiver in Cooper Kupp. You brought in Allen Robinson this offseason to be, wide receiver too. You still have Van Jefferson, who I think is a good receiver. I liked him back at Florida too. He's a good receiver, but he's been hurt, so he hasn't played too much at this point. Clearly, Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't brought back. But I just think when you look at the way their offense is set up, if you look at their skill position players, they have the guys that you would think you would be able to take advantage of. Some of the 49ers, I would say their past weaknesses, because this year our secondary hasn't been much of a weakness. But when you have those guys, you think you have guys that you could exploit where the 49ers are more weaker, which is opposite of the defensive line defensively. But then you also look at their defensive line, and then you look at their offensive line. And I think that's where these football games are won. To be quite frank with you, in this specific matchup, we've been able to dominate on both sides, offensively and defensively on the line. I don't know if you guys watched the game last night, but the Browns versus the Bengals is similar in that game. I thought, the Browns aren't, in my opinion, a better, roster-wise, you could argue they have a better roster than the Bengals. You could argue that. But I think right now, I would say the Bengals are the better team. But that game was won in the trenches. Joe Burrow couldn't do anything because he'd had no time to do anything. Funny thing is, when it's a game similar like that with the 49ers, that somehow works into the strengths of Jimmy Garoppolo because he's good at getting the ball out quickly. He's not an elite quarterback by any means, but on scripted plays and when he knows where, I'll say this, when Jimmy Garoppolo knows where to go with the ball and he doesn't hesitate, he's a solid quarterback, a really solid quarterback. And I thought he played a really, really, really solid game. I think it was only 4 incompletions in the game. I thought he played really solid. So I think this game, and I know I'm kind of ranting here for a second, but this football game, and I think many times have been won in the trenches. The Rams aren't and can't run on us, and they know that. How many times on that first 17 play drive did they try to like throw fades to Cooper Kupp, to Allen Robinson? Did they try to throw the ball on like the 2-yard line, the 3-yard line? They were surrendering and telling us, waving the white flag, telling us they can't run the ball on us. And we know that. They know that. Fans know that. Mm-hmm. It kind of plays into the psyche. So I just think we match up really well with him. Is it a get right game? Yes. But at the same time, I'm not going to go so far as to say we've solved all of our problems, if that makes sense. I do think that we need to get Deebo Samuel back. We're good. We have good weapons. And when Jimmy Garoppolo plays like this, I wouldn't say I'm worried, because when he plays like this, we're very tough to beat. But I need to see it a bit more consistently. We're 4-4 right now for a reason, as much as I hate to say that. That's just the truth.
Yeah, true that. What about you, Twin?
So my thing is, he said like a get right game. It was a confident booster for that week. It's a game that all 49ers fans know. I mean, it's Rams week, you know what I mean? So it's like it's a certain vibe. It's like an event, whenever we play against the Rams. So I think psychologically, not only for like the teams, but also for the fan bases, there's almost like this knowing that we have over them, and so on one part of it, you like, yay, we're happy. We did what we needed to do. We showed our dominance over them. But on another part, like on the other side, it's like, hey, let's not take it as if this is the game that could. I mean, we will hope that it changes our season, but also at the same time, as Jamal said earlier, the Rams offense, the lack of ability, where the offensive line shambles, running backs, Cam Akers looking like, hey, bro, I think he tweeted out today, man, I miss football. You ready to play? Allen Robinson is still trying to get acquainted. Cooper Kupp is pretty much just working within 10 yards, and that's about it. So, like, for us, and we know what they do well and know what they don't do well, I mean, it's a wonderful attack for us. It's good for us just to get the W, like a feel-good game, get a little confidence going into the bye week. But for me, man, I'm really looking forward to see what do we do outside of our division, because honestly, if we take away our division opponents, man, we're catching a whole bunch of L's. And so,
yeah, for sure,
I'm looking that we will begin to start like getting more consistent, man, racking up a couple W's and start to show some type of consistency in our discipline as well when it comes out there, because a lot of times I just feel like we're too up and down, but when you play against a team that you're familiar with, your confidence is not necessarily shaken because we beat them like pretty much 8 times in a row. So I was happy just for the overall showing of just the second half of the game, the adjustments that we did make. Big ups to the faithful first. Let me give them their props. All the individuals that went out there and traveled to SoFi, man. It looked
absolutely.
I don't know about y'all TV screen, but it was lovely, man. I'm looking, I'm like, oh, that's a whole bunch of red out there, boy. Like,
they were trying to say that it was 50-50, but like on the TV, but yeah, you could tell.
There was no way it was 50-50. There's no way. At worst, it was like 85-15.
Yeah, I saw Croc tweet out like he was like, "There's no way that it was any 50-50. It was like 80-20 or whatever the case was." So like, but yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that it's it could be a get right game, but it's to be seen. Like I think that I'm cautiously optimistic at this point, and that the fact that we needed this offense to show its identity. And I think we're still waiting to see if there's going to be consistency. And I think I've talked about consistency on every single one of my podcasts this year because we haven't seen any. And so every week, the game plan is a little bit different. And honestly, they're going to go into the bye week. They're going to play against the Chargers, but it's going to look different that week too, because all of a sudden you're going to insert Deebo. You're going to insert Deebo back in. Jawan Jennings is going to be back. We're supposed to have Elijah Mitchell back. All of it's going to look different again. And but who was the other person?
No, I was just saying Armstead possibly.
Oh man, yeah, like I'm just thinking about the offense right now. But the Armstead. I mean, we desperately need him on this defensive line. But yeah, as far as the offense goes, it's just going to be about What do they do? Are they going to steady give CMC that many touches? The same amount of touches that they gave this week? I'd probably not. Now it could be. It could be. Kyle could take that mentality of running people. He just rides the horse until the wheels fall off. But like, I would hope not. I would think that he would. You can establish an identity without just going with one guy. There's so many weapons on this team that there's just no excuse. There's just no real excuse for just going with one guy and making. Now I could see you going with one guy, and then when they start keying on that, you move on to another person. That's the whole point of having multiple weapons. So it's I'm still on a wait and see attitude with Kyle. You saw the excitement after the game was over from Kyle dapping up John Lynch, and they were really happy about the performance, which they should be.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah,
I'm glad you pointed that. The way they dapped each other up it reminded me when we won the NFC Championship game before going to the Super Bowl. That's the way he dapped him. Maybe I'm looking into it too much. I'm not saying it's the same level or same significance, but the way they dapped up, it was like Kyle got a little bit of a monkey off his back. Like, oh my word, I feel like we have found a rhythm with this offense. We've got a good piece. We should be able to be like we found something moving forward. It felt like that.
Exactly. And that's the way that, honestly, there had to be they had to feel the pressure at this point. Everybody, not that they necessarily listen to the fans, but they hear the whispers, and I'm sure the locker room there had to be some frustration in the locker room about this offense also. So I think it was a huge exhale moment for Kyle, and I'm happy for him because I like Kyle. Does he always do everything that I wanted to do? No, hardly ever, to be honest. But I like the culture that he's put onto this team. And I know that a lot of people are down on him, but I think that if he can just get some consistency, we can go back to being a really good offense with all these pieces. But so we just started talking about CMC. Can we say that CMC is worth those 4 picks that we gave up to give him? And I'm gonna start with you, Twin. Do you think this is what we'll see from CMC? I just mentioned it. Do you think that they'll be riding him like that, or is there any kind of worry about them overusing him?
Real quick, could I say one more thing on that last subject? Just real quick.
For sure.
I'm so sorry, Twin. So the question that you asked was it a get right game, and did we seem to solve the issues with our offense, right? And so I don't feel like I've specifically said what I thought any issues were. I have not specifically said that. So for me, what I would say real quickly is I know we haven't put up a lot of points, but I do think it's been more self-inflicted than it has been teams holding us down. And what I mean by that, for me in particular, penalties have been big. And I've seen multiple drives, and this goes for every offense in the league on average, but with the way we were playing right now too, it only adds to it. Those penalties, those false starts, starting out on 1st and 15, which I saw multiple times throughout the first 7 games. Yeah, turnovers. Many times we'd start a drive and then we'd be 1st and 15 after a stupid false start, a random holding. I saw that often. This week we only had 3 penalties for I think a total of 8 yards. So that helps you stay on track. Being able to limit turnovers on top of that, that helps you stay on track. Jimmy Garoppolo only throwing 4 incompletions total throughout the game. Yeah, I think that helps you stay on track. And then I know we have Deebo Samuel, we had Deebo Samuel out. We had Juwan Jennings out. But we just so happened to add this guy named Christian McCaffrey that I know we're just about to talk about right now. And he just so happens to be able to do a lot of similar things that Deebo Samuel can do. And he's also a verified, he's a running back. He's a running back who very well could play slot receiver and be a top 5 slot receiver. I actually tweeted this out the other day. In my humble opinion, I think he's Hunter Renfrow plus. I legitimately believe that. He's anything Hunter Renfrow can do. And that's not a dig at Hunter Renfrow either. He is a top 5 slot receiver, in my opinion. But he's everything that he is, plus, because he can do those things that Deebo Samuel can do. He actually is a running back. Now, he doesn't have the top-end speed that he once had in his Stanford days, his first couple years in the NFL. He's taken a slight step back, but I have no problem with that because he's still just as elusive. He still can stiff arm and run right through a guy as well, too. And his hands are awesome. He knows his pass blocking assignments. Like, this is a guy that's still in the prime of his career. So I do think it's a match made in heaven. He's only 26, like you just said.
Yeah.
So I know that we're transitioning to Christian McCaffrey, but for me, I just wanted to say, like, real quickly where I stand on that. The penalties. It's hard to continue or sustain an offensive drive and hopefully lead to any points if you're starting consistently at 1st and 15, or you have good drives and then it gets stalled out because it's a 1st and 15. You're picking up 3 yards and then you're ended up in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. Like, it's hard to consistently do that. And I saw multiple times where we're hurting ourselves. That doesn't happen all the time, but multiple times that did happen. And that's where it comes back to the consistency that I think all three of us have been talking about. And I said at the beginning, like, what team is this? Because these are mistakes a Super Bowl caliber team shouldn't be making. So I just wanted to add that part real quick. I'm so sorry, Twin.
For sure. But to your point, it could have swung the other way. Like, because McCaffrey fumbled that one. That could have easily not gone right to Ray. Jimmy he only missed a couple of throws, and but one of them should have been picked off.
Yeah, Ramsey.
It could have gone the other direction. We hadn't been getting the right things, weren't falling our way. Yeah, we weren't getting the breaks.
Yeah, there's luck, right?
And there is a little bit of luck involved, and we happened to be lucky in this one because it could have swung the other way. But yeah, go ahead, Twin. What do you think that they could be overusing Christian McCaffrey going forward?
In my opinion, even the last game, I think I'd rather take away 5 carries, and I thought we missed 5 opportunities to give George Kittle the ball. It was kind of still predictable on first downs. Ran the ball several times, especially in the second quarter when we got the ball down in the red zone. We ended up getting a penalty on second down, and we were still like 1st and goal, but it kind of took us back a little bit after we had an explosive play. I thought on that 1st down and goal, a beautiful play action run, try to get George Kittle a touchdown, a target at least in the red zone off of play action on 1st down would have been a beautiful play design, in my opinion. I think we do too often we leave George Kittle out the game. There'll be times where he'll get one explosive play for 18 yards, and then 4 series later, he haven't touched the ball. He's just been blocking. And I think for a guy like Christian McCaffrey, man, I want to make sure that he's here for the long term and not short term. And that means that if I have bodies around him of skilled players that we can exploit and use them. And so, in my opinion, he took, like I say, some good hits, and he had some explosive plays. But I still think that we do have enough weapons around him where he doesn't have to take a lot of those bashings. And I believe that will help our offense not be so predictable at times. And because we're a run heavy team, especially on 1st down. We had a couple plays where we didn't run the ball on 1st down, but I thought we missed quite a few opportunities since we were getting a lot of yards to gain on 1st down running ball to really exploit, our tight end and really get him. I mean, I just like seeing him not being just a blocker all the time, in my opinion. It's just like, come on, my guy. And so that's the thing with like overusing CMC. And I know how Kyle can get where he can get into that mode where he'll get stuck and he will use you until he use you up. And it's only like we got a whole nother half of the season to go. And a perfect example of this, not trying to hate on Kyle, is Elijah Mitchell. I mean,
oh man,
he had to touch the field this year for real. And last year he was in and out for long periods of time. We saw how that messed up our offense. So I hope sometimes he'll look at it like, hey, you know what? Let me use all my chess pieces. I like to play chess. Let me use all of my chess pieces on the board. You know what I mean? If I got a rook, and I think like, well, to me, in my opinion, your boy Christian McCaffrey, he's like a night piece. He can do wonderful things all in small tight places. He can move everywhere around the board. But when you got somebody like George Kittle, man, hey, use them. You know what I mean? So that's just my opinion on the matter, where I think we need to make sure we're cautious of CMC. We want to make sure he's going in there healthy. And also, hopefully this year, I think last year, Kyle didn't necessarily use like a two-back system that often. As the year prolonged, he used either Elijah or Debo a lot. And so hopefully Elijah Mitchell is healthy and we see him get at least like 8 to 10 carries. I think that'll be wonderful for our teams. So
yeah, I want to speak on what you just talked about, the that two-back look that they gave this last game when now granted it was Jeff Wilson, but now that's going to be Elijah Mitchell on the other side. And I thought that was a great look. I thought that was a great. I don't want to call it adjustment because they started with it in the beginning of the game, but I thought that it was a great adjustment to the offense, and it makes them a little bit more dynamic. It's going to make them even more dynamic when Debo's on the field and he can motion into that second back, because then you just kind of have to pick your poison. But I think that is a huge piece, is that 2-back set. I think I don't know, and I'll probably bring this up later, but what does that do for Juice? I just have to wonder, what does that Juice do for Juice's snaps? But what do you think, Jamal? For the CMC?
So it's interesting because I feel like with CMC, and I want to pose this question to you guys: is he the first blue chipper Shanahan's went to go get?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Coming out of college, this dude was a first round pick, elite talent. Is this the first time we've seen, or in the Shanahan regime, the Shanahan era, get a guy like that?
Yeah,
because
I think so, because McKinnon wasn't first round. So
no, he wasn't, right? Good player, and he went for him for a very similar reason. They're similar types of players, right? Exactly. I think that's a great comparison, especially before injury. Similar types of players. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's better. I think Christian McCaffrey's he's elite running back. Yeah. But I'm with you on that. Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the primary running back for the Minnesota Vikings. They had
he wasn't
in there as well. So
you're right. Yeah, you're 100% right. But then if you go down the line, right, you look at George Kittle, late round pick, fifth round. I forgot which round. Late round pick,
5th round.
Debo, 5th, right? Debo Samuel, 2nd round pick. Elijah Mitchell, later round pick, 4th. I think he was. I think 4th.
Elijah Mitchell was 6th.
6th. You're right. It was a 6th out of Louisiana Raging
Tech.
Cajuns. Louisiana Tech. And then I'm trying to think. Ayuk, 1st round pick. But I'm going through those skill position guys, and I'm thinking, okay, CMC might be the first one that we've said, you know what? There's a chance to go get a blue chipper. He can make a difference on this team. Now, some people were saying, okay, now if we go get Christian McCaffrey, we're just strengthening a position of strength, if that makes sense. It's a position that's already good, and we're making it stronger. To that, I say true, true, for sure. I agree with it.
A hobble strength.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. 100%. And I agree with that too. But I also think you're getting Christian McCaffrey, and I know a lot of people are saying it's concerns over his injury history, but I believe it was 2 out of 6 total seasons that he's been truly hurt where he couldn't play. Yeah. He has produced when he's been healthy. And the thing is, and I think the question had asked this, you guys touched on it as well too, that overusage. I personally don't think that's going to be the case here with the 49ers because, as Twin had just said, while it's a strength, it is a hobbled strength. But if that's the case, there's no need to overuse McCaffrey because you do still have an Elijah Mitchell. You did go draft a couple young running backs in Jordan Mason and Ty Davis Price. You did actually go trade Jeff Wilson. And speaking of Jeff Wilson, just a little side note, he was traded today to obviously the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But leading up to this week, he had been our leading rusher, still is currently our leading rusher till somebody passes him. And he'd been heavily involved in the offense. All of a sudden, 4 carries, 14 yards this past week. I don't believe that was an accident. I do think there was a concerted effort to get Christian McCaffrey involved into this offense, obviously acclimated. But I also think this says more about the potential trade and the trade that did actually materialize. Yeah. I don't know how soon.
They said Lynch said that he asked for a trade after the game.
Oh, after the game, really?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking the conversation could have started before. McDaniel knows him, right?
He had to know that the writing was on the wall. You know what I'm saying?
And he was having a good year, man. He was averaging 5.1 yards, 5.1 yards per rush.
Yeah.
I think he was in top 15 in rushing. I mean, he was actually running the ball pretty well for our team, So I think he's like, hey man, let me get a little shine because I know I know how you can run.
He's in a contract year.
Exactly. Yeah. He's in a contract year. You have to, and I don't think there's any bad blood either. I think he understands it. I don't want to say I don't think he likes it. I wouldn't. No competitor likes it. But you just look in the room. Oh, we brought in Christian McCaffrey. He is going to be here for minimum the next 3 years. you drafted 2 running backs in Jordan Mason, Ty Davis Price. Ty Davis Price is a higher draft pick. You're gonna keep those 2 guys. You do have Elijah Mitchell, who was your featured back last year, coming back. Like at some point, there's going to be an odd man out. Yeah, they already let Tevin Coleman go, and then they re-signed him back, right? Like there are certain guys who are going to be. He was the guy that was going to be left out, but in that position, in his position, I mean, I'm not mad for the guy. I'm happy for him. He set himself up well. He was leading the team in rushing, like you said, 5.1 yards a carry, playing very, very well. Great. Honestly, I think he's great for our system. He's proven to always be a solid, tough runner. And I thought, for me personally, this year, I saw something we didn't get to see last year from him. I know he was coming off an injury, but I don't think he's the fastest guy or anything like that. But he's fast. I thought he was faster this year than he was at any point last year that I saw from him, both in explosion and acceleration. I thought when he sees the hole, he's the type of guy that's going to run pretty much full speed through it and get whatever yards that he can. I think when you have a guy like him versus a guy like McCaffrey, it is almost lightning and thunder-like, because I think McCaffrey is a bit more patient, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think his vision is elite. McCaffrey's vision is awesome. I think he's really good at being patient, seeing that hole open up, and then also when it's closing, he's really good at getting skinny to be able to get through those specific holes. But I think his acceleration is elite. Now, I don't think he has, and this is CMC I'm talking about, I don't think he's got the top end speed of potentially even Elijah Mitchell. I think Elijah Mitchell at top end speed could potentially, I'm not saying he is, he could potentially be faster than CMC, but I think CMC's acceleration in that 5 to 10 yard range is still really elite and really good. I know that's getting a little bit off topic, but I think that's why Jeff Wilson is out. You get a guy like CMC in.
They're just different runners.
Go ahead.
They're just different runners. They had like Jeff Wilson is more of a violent type of, he sees a crack and he's just going to go full speed into it. And I think Jeff Wilson's burst is really what kind of got him that 5.1 yards carry this season. It's his burst, like, because he's not the fastest guy. CMC, I think, is a little bit faster than he is, but I think CMC has just a little bit more burst, and he hits the holes. And to your point, it's like a surgeon, like because he goes back there. He kind of his running style kind of reminds me of the dude that used to be on the Steelers.
Not bad.
Willie Parker.
No. Well, kind of like Willie Parker, but the guy after him. He just kind of took a nosedive.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh my word, I know who you're talking about.
Because he's just really patient.
Rashard Mendenhall?
No. It's
you talking
recent.
Le'Veon Bell?
Le'Veon Bell. Because
Yeah.
like he kind of like waits. He kind of waits and looks at what hole is going to open up, and then exactly, and then he just runs right through it. Like so, he kind of reminds me of him, except he's more explosive on the burst, and so I like that fact. And then the fact is that this guy has receiver level hands. Like so, the guy is just. I think I always thought that he was, when the trade happened, I wasn't necessarily happy about what they gave up, because I thought that they had other needs. I think that the running backs were suitable. They were already getting 5.1 yards a carry out of Jeff Wilson. And was it worth what we gave up? Like, was it going to make a big enough impact? But I mean, I think that what we saw was, yes, I think it was worth it. Like at this point, I mean, if it'll get our defense a rest, and you saw what it did for Jimmy, and I'm transitioning to this next question is, like, with how well Jimmy played, and not that it was a perfect game, but it seemed like it was like he just unlocked Jimmy, and him having those underneath throws that Kyle doesn't really incorporate. We just never really throw the ball to our running backs that often. But it seemed like with CMC on the team, it was almost like he had to incorporate that. And so now you add that part to the offense, and it gave Jimmy a guy to dump it off to, and they almost had an instant chemistry, like right away. So it was. How do you guys feel? And we'll start with you, Twin. How do you feel about that? Do you think Jimmy that really helped Jimmy and it kind of unlocked him?
Yeah, I mean, I think also this trade forced him to do something. And actually it forced Jimmy to go back to his original roots.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, when you look at the New England Patriots, one thing they did do very well was they used their backs, in the passing game, especially in their short game. They really just made like little short tosses in the backfield, and
James
the
White.
running back would get the ball, and whether it's Kevin Falk, whether it was Dion, it's a plethora of guys that was back there who did the same job where they'll have 10 receptions for 85 yards, and they just pretty much kept the chains moving, and it kept Tom Brady in the rhythm. And a lot of times on offense, you want to make sure you get your guys, your offensive line, to have some type of confidence. And I believe that what this previous game did for Jimmy Garoppolo, I think it took him back to like, oh yeah, let me use this guy. Let me make sure I execute the play, as far as my reads first and foremost, but just be comfortable knowing I got somebody in the back that I can toss the ball to. And I think last time me and you, Peter, talked, that was one of my main issues with Kyle. Was like, dog, how long you gonna be in this offense and not utilize the backfield? We've seen every team that was successful in the playoffs, especially when you look at, unfortunately, our Super Bowl, the Chiefs used the backfield. Even the previous Super Bowl that we just saw, you saw Stafford use the running backs out the backfield to continue to keep the chains moving. Yeah. And they're just being smart. You're being patient, and you allow them, because most of the times when you got these great route runners running these routes from 10 to 15 yards on out, the underneath is open. So if you got somebody with any type of catching ability to catch that ball, got a little wiggle to him, I think it allowed Jimmy G to be like, okay, cool. And that's why I think his completions was so high as well, where whenever he did see something, he saw it and trusted, because the defense had to be extremely precise on their reads in what it was that they were trying to do, because they couldn't really disguise no more, because you have to cover every blade 53 across and 100 all the way down. And so I think that kind of opened it up a little bit for him to utilize his full gamut of options and be more of a proficient passer, and really help execute our offense in a different type of way that we haven't seen since Kyle has been the head coach there in the OC.
Yeah, before Jamal answers that question, I want to answer Niner Sickness, and hey, I appreciate everybody in the chat. Like, you guys are getting real active in the chat. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to all the questions, but I did want to mention this one. And I know I saw Akash tweet out, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, that apparently once you play in a certain number, you can't change your number until next season. So yeah, he's stuck with 23 until at least next season. But go ahead, Jamal, why don't you answer that question too?
Yeah, so it's a tough question to answer, because I don't know if I'll say it straight out. I didn't see anything new from Jimmy Garoppolo that I've never seen from him before, right? I just saw him not make any true boneheaded mistakes. Now, he had a play that could have been intercepted. Obviously, we talked about the Jalen Ramsey play. At the same time, I give Jalen Ramsey some credit there too, because he is an athletic freak, and he made a good play on the ball. And Jimmy threw that one late. And I actually tweeted this out too, live time during that game. I said, this is not a good start from Jimmy Garoppolo. That was after the first drive. I saw two specific plays. I'm trying to remember which ones they were off the top of my head. That play, that one that Ramsey almost got, was late. Mm-hmm. I think he was trying to hit Kittle late, but it was covered. And then there was the one to Ray, the other one to Ray deep down the field, just slightly underthrown. Obviously, it was underthrown a little bit, but it was also late because he was open much earlier than that. So those two plays were plays that, in my opinion, for any quarterback, this is not just Jimmy Garoppolo, any quarterback, I would have said, yeah, you got to hit those. You got to hit dude in rhythm on time, because the play was there. You just saw it late, and then you attempted it. And that's where you almost got in trouble, because Jalen Ramsey did almost make an awesome play and get an interception. Then on the first one to Ray, you just missed it. I don't know if he just didn't trust that he'd get open, or maybe even hesitated for a second before he wanted to actually deliver that ball. But those are two plays for any quarterback, I would say you got to make those. Outside of those two plays, though, I don't know if I saw anything insane from Jimmy Garoppolo that I would say he couldn't repeat, because like Twin just so eloquently said, and I thought it was awesome. I agree with him. Yeah. You have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who we said earlier he can play in a similar realm or similar way to a Deebo Samuel. And it's players like those two guys who have the ability to catch passes in the slot, out wide, line up in the backfield, which both of them can do. It's been that type of specific player that's consistently given the Rams problems. We've seen that. It has been, and I mean, up until this week, we've been able to say Deebo Samuel, the Ram killer, the Ram slayer. They just have no answer for him. Can we say the same thing about Christian McCaffrey now? You bet your bottom dollar we can, right? A 34-yard pass touchdown, a reception TD, and a rushing TD. And they had no answer for the guy. Now, I also agree with you guys that there could have been, maybe we didn't need to give him 18 carries. I would have liked a little bit more balance. I'd like to have seen Jeff Wilson or someone else get a couple more carries there. I'm not mad at it or anything like that because I know we're also trying to acclimate him within the scheme, within the offense. And before the game, like we were told that he had no restrictions, right? He understands the playbook. He's very happy to be here. So I'm not mad at it by any means. But as you guys were kind of mentioning too earlier, and I agree with it, I don't want to see Kyle Shanahan get to the point where he's like, okay, this dude's so good, I'm only going to ride him. Yeah. Elijah Mitchell's just coming back off of an injury. Oh, we'll kind of phase him out because he's not playing so well right now. No, these are the times where you want to get some balance because both guys, I don't want to say they're injury prone because I don't think they're injury prone, but they have proven that they can get banged up. And you should kind of expect that from your running backs if you're consistently only using one of those guys. Take advantage of Elijah Mitchell. Take advantage of the strengths that Christian McCaffrey does have. Line him up in the slot sometimes. Line him up in the backfield with Deebo Samuel. Line him up in the backfield with Elijah Mitchell, right? Have two running back sets, which we did start to see this week. There were some plays where we saw Jeff Wilson and Elijah Mitchell, or Jeff Wilson and Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, and it was explosive. We were able to get a lot of positive yardage off those plays. I shared a tweet for those who follow me from Next Gen Stats that kind of talks about that specific one, but the Rams had no answer for that. So I look at Christian McCaffrey and I say, yes, he's worth 100% of the picks. Jimmy Garoppolo played a really good game. I thought a really solid game. But that's, in my humble opinion, and I hope you guys agree with me on this, we've never said Jimmy Garoppolo needs to do everything or needs to carry this team because we have a really good defense. Yes, we're going through a little bit of a hitch right now because we've gone through some injuries, but that's no excuse. Every team goes through injuries. Every team has to weather some sort of storm, right? And I think that we have. I think we're starting to weather that storm.
Yep.
But when it comes specifically to the offense, this was a trade that says we're going all in, not just for this year. Although it's all in for this year, he's still under contract as well, too. So not only is this supposed to work this year with Jimmy Garoppolo because he's that good of a player right now, Christian McCaffrey, but I think this was also a move for the coming years as well, too, with Trey Lance. Absolutely. In a similar way that you have Jimmy Garoppolo and he shouldn't carry this offense, the same has to be said for Trey Lance, who will be, sadly, and we hate to say it, he's still going to be a first-year starter should he make it through next year because he only played a couple games this year. So I look at those two things, or I look at those few things, and I say, yes, in my opinion, it was worth the picks because you get a proven commodity who can help you in many facets of the game. And then I think nobody's saying this because we don't like to talk about it this way. I know I don't, but I think the fact of the matter is Deebo Samuel was out, right? He was hurt. He didn't get to play. So Christian McCaffrey was able to kind of cover for some of those, I don't want to say limitations of Jimmy Garoppolo. He was able to help fill some of that void. In a similar way, should Deebo come back and Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, you have Deebo who can do some of those similar things, as well as Elijah Mitchell coming back. So if CMC were to go down, we know what we have in Elijah Mitchell. We know what we have in Deebo Samuel. If those guys can stay healthy, and that's my goal, that's my hope, because I'm all about efficiency. Give Elijah Mitchell some carries. Give CMC some carries. Continue to have Deebo Samuel in the backfield from time to time, right? At some point, you have to find what's the pecking order? Is Deebo Samuel still going to be, 10 targets, whether it's in the backfield and also out wide? Is it going to be CMC gets maybe 7 of those? 7, lines up 5 times in the slot, something like that. Averages maybe 12 to 15 carries. You get Elijah Mitchell as we slowly bring him back. Maybe he's getting 10 to 12 carries as well, too. And then as Twin said, and I'm right there with you, what's up with Kittle? What are we doing with Kittle? And we haven't even mentioned Brandon Ayuk, who's been killing it for the past 2 weeks.
Before you go any further, that was my next question, because I want to move into this question, which is what's going to happen when Deebo comes back, and we talked about it earlier about the usage. Does CMC still going to get all those touches when Deebo gets back, or does it cut into Ayuk's touches? Do you think, and I'm going to start with you, Twin, like, are there too many weapons for any wide receiver on this team to be the guy? Like, to be the guy that you're going to on any, on like when you need one, like this is the guy. Do we have the guy on our squad? Could that be CMC? But like, are there just too many weapons for anybody to be that guy?
My issue would be that our pace and our tempo is too slow. And so I'll use a basketball analogy. I don't know if y'all, I got the Warriors, you know what I'm saying? Champions over here representing the Warriors. But like
16-time champions Lakers.
You know what I'm saying?
Here, but you know. Or I think it's 17 now. Is it 17?
There we go. I was gonna say it, but yeah, 17.
The defending champions. But as you guys noticed, may have saw this with KD, man. You had Steph, Clay, and you know, KD and a whole bunch of guys. But what happened was their pace of play allowed everybody still get attempts and shots. And so with the offense that we do have, when we try to be so run centric and we play like our play clock situation where we'll sit there and get a play call in and we don't break the huddle until maybe 12, 13 seconds. And then we do all the motion and then we literally are hiking the ball off with almost a second to 2 seconds left. A lot of times we even had to call a timeout because it was just taking too long. And so with the amount of players that we do have, I would like for us to do more of a up tempo, utilize all of these playmakers that we do have on our squad to kind of increase these guys' attempts, because if not, the way that Kyle plays, like what Kyle plays, he set things up. And I'm not sure that the way that he set things up is for a team that has so many weapons. Sometimes you have to almost subtract to actually get more out of the teams or out of the players that you have around. But me personally, I think that we should adopt a newer, more up-tempo type of style periodically in our games to kind of help utilize all the players that we do have. Because eventually when we're not playing against the Rams and the team that we know very well, in one of these higher upper echelon offensive teams as well, and they do have a pretty good defense, doing the same old pattern, I don't think will work for us. Or in the playoffs, as we get, against those better teams, our offense has to kick it up. But we never really did an up tempo. We never did no huddle and things of that nature. Once we try to do it, our players probably not be as confident. We'll see these penalties start to show, whether it's formation, you line up improperly in your formation, you doing false starts. All that comes because of what? Confidence. It comes because of what? You haven't done this in a while. You don't have the rhythm and things of that nature. So I would say, can we start implementing those type of situations now, early on in the season? Live the mistakes now so that as Kyle grows into calling their plays for this team, it will help us be more dynamic and explosive for all facets of the game. So whether it's going to Brandon Ayuk, whether it's getting the ball to Deebo Samuels, whether in one possession you may get like an explosive run, say for instance for like 5 to 10 yards. That's not too explosive, but you may get let's hurry up. Let's get, we get a first down. Let's do a hurry up, get on a first down, play action to Kittle. And let's go back to Kittle. Try to do a little more rhythm in how we run our offense to make sure that we can utilize all these weapons. Because if not, I think we will see a lot of games where there's one guy over here will have one catch for 2 catches for 23 yards, and then next thing you know, 3 games later, he may have a big game, but you be like, dog, why is there so many ups and downs in the offense? And mainly because it's just the pace of play. It's just too slow for me, in my opinion. We got to speed this up.
I remember the last time you were on, we talked about pace of play, and we talked about that why do they not do some no huddle and just get the guys going? Maybe that could take away some of the stagnancy, and if that's even a word, but not just that, but it could also, you're keeping the defense. You're taking advantage of the defense that's on the field and not allowing them to make substitutions. That's another aspect of it. We don't know because I don't know if we've seen Jimmy do it correctly, running a no huddle, but
Cincinnati last year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
In Green Bay.
And to your point, honestly, you won't know until he just does it. So
yeah.
Like, I think that it's something they definitely should look into. I think I've been talking about it since you mentioned it, like, because I thought at the time that was such a great point. Like, but what do you think, Jamal?
I was disagreeing with some points, but that last point that you guys said there, I actually like that. You mentioned maybe doing a little bit more up temp. I actually like that because while I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a great quarterback by any means, I do think he's pretty good in the 2-minute warning, 2-minute shut. Now he's not perfect, right? But I have seen him in some clutch situations. I mean, we saw it last year against the Rams themselves to help get us in position to go to the playoffs. Those last 2 minutes of the game, he was pretty nails. I'm not saying he's clutch or anything by those metrics, but maybe for lack of better words, when Jimmy doesn't have too much time to, and this sounds bad, but when he's not overthinking and he can kind of, when he's not overthinking, he can kind of play in rhythm, see it, hit it, go. I think he's really good. And I thought he did that often in this last Rams game as well, too. If that's the case, I like that. And I think some people, and maybe even Kyle Shanahan himself, might be scared of that because we have seen him have a boneheaded mistake. Like we've seen that, right? Those things do happen. That can be true. And so can Jimmy Garoppolo still being, pretty good in those 2-minute situations, up tempo type environments. And I think you were saying earlier too, you were talking about like, is there a true go-to guy? Will there be a go-to guy? But at the same time, we've mentioned the weapons that we do have. I think, and I'm just going to be honest about this, I think we're I don't want to beat around the bush. I kind of think we are a little bit. Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo the way that we would like him to, or that I think Jimmy Garoppolo would like him to. Yeah. I think you do have these weapons, right? You do now have a Christian McCaffrey. You do have a Deebo Samuel. You do have a Brandon Ayuk. You do have a George Kittle. And Twin said this earlier too, and I agree. I've been saying it for a long time too. When you have a guy as good as George Kittle, why are there games where he has 0 catches? Why are there games where he has 1 catch for 14 yards, 2 catches? I think this week it was 3 catches, 35 yards. And sometimes he's not featured, but he's your tight end. Tight ends are supposed to be like a safety blanket. Now, A lot of people have said, "Oh, your offensive line hasn't been that great. He's got to help. He's got to help there."
They've been solid.
It's not been as bad as people would like to say.
Our line's not dead horrible. Man.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's be real. Let's be real about that,
especially in pass protection.
Thank you. And that's my point. So if that's the case, why doesn't he? And I'm not just putting that all on Jimmy Garoppolo. That's also on play calling as well. I don't think, and that's Kyle Shanahan right there. That's on Kyle as well too. But in that same instance, I think it was the Falcons game. How many touches did Deebo get in that game? So sometimes Kyle's on, sometimes Kyle's off. Now Jimmy Garoppolo is the one pulling the trigger, but you can put Deebo in the backfield and get him the ball to get him some touches because he's that good of a player that, like we just saw CMC do, he's going to make a couple guys miss and just make special plays here and there. When you're down the way you were down in that Falcons game, why didn't you give him the ball in those type of situations the last 8 minutes of that game? It's almost like they waved the white flag that they were kind of giving up. There wasn't much hurry up in that situation either. And so I just don't think Kyle Shanahan fully trusts Jimmy Garoppolo the way some people would want him to. I'd like to see it, but I do also understand these are live bullets too. And so some of these situations where it could happen, he might be scared to pull the trigger.
Hey man,
but if you want to win a game, if you want to win these games, you want to win a Super Bowl, you do have
no
to
more
take
training
chances as well.
Is he 5 years in?
You can't.
You
can't.
No more training wheels.
Nobody.
You can't.
That's not an excuse no more. We've been in the game too long, man. You've been
right.
The whole NFC Championship game, and and you brought him back too. So you told him to come back and play as a backup too. Hey, bro.
Right.
I don't want to hear none of that. Let that man go and give it a shot.
Here's the last thing I'll say about that, and I'm really curious your guys' thoughts on this too, because I've heard, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and maybe it started to pick up steam a little bit. I've heard some content creators, I won't say any names because I can't even remember exactly who it was, but they said we have a lot of skill position guys that are all the same, essentially the same, right? You have your Yak Bros, you have Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and then we just added Christian McCaffrey. I'm actually going to be the one that's going to go out on a limb and say I don't think that they're all the same. Now, they have the ability to get yak yards, and Deebo Samuel, in my opinion, being probably the best at that. George Kittle, he's no longer, I wouldn't say he's in the prime of his career anymore. He's still very good. George Kittle might be second. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think Brandon Ayuk is like a yak guy in the
No.
same realm as a
He
Deebo
can.
Samuel or a George
He can,
Kittle.
but
He
yeah,
can do it,
That's
and
not
that's
his-
Jimmy Garoppolo's strengths, right?
He's
So
a
he
pure
can
receiver.
do. It's not that he can't. So we were talking about a second ago. We were talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and taking off the handcuffs, right? Let him play. If that's the case, and you're looking for a go-to guy, why can't it be situational? Why can't it be 4th and 2, 4th and 8, the way we saw, or I think it was 4th and 8 last season in the Packers game? You hand the ball off to Deebo Samuel, and he still picks up a first down in the playoff game against the Packers. That's a situation. Okay, what if the conditions are a little bit better? You're playing in SoFi again, NFC Championship game, and it's 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7, and you're going to throw the ball. Why can't that go to arguably your best route runner? In my opinion, would be Brandon Ayuk. Why can't it be situational? The go-to guy. Why couldn't that be?
Your point. Now, I don't know if you saw that Kurt Warner video this past weekend, but he was showing and Ayuk, I do think is their best pure receiver.
Yes.
But he showed a few snaps where he felt that Ayuk wasn't releasing correctly, he wasn't getting the correct leverage. He also was taking the slant too early. He should have taken it a little bit farther up the field. Like he wasn't doing Jimmy any favors, is what is basically how he put it. So I think that is, and I think it's been kind of well documented at this point that when Trey went down, Ayuk was not a happy camper at the beginning. Right. So I think that it's taking him some time, because I thought that was a completely different story in this last game. I think that he was making himself available, and honestly, he could have gotten to 100 yards easily.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
He's
yeah,
had 3 awesome games in a row.
I think that all of these guys have different strengths, and they're not all yak guys. I think Kittle can be a yak guy. I think Kittle can do. He's a Swiss Army knife, just like Juszczyk is just a smaller version of him. And then you've got Deebo that does a little bit of everything, but he's not really, to me, a pure receiver. He can do that, but he's not. That's not his thing. Yeah, that's really not his thing. I think that they found his niche in this league. But Ayuk is the one guy that's the pure. I think he's a pure route runner. He can cook anybody you put in front of him, and I think he's that guy. But it just depends on the game plan. And to your point, it depends on what Kyle is doing. But also Ayuk has to run his route like he's going to get the ball every time. And I think it's a consistency thing, but it's a consistency thing across the board for all of them. And I think this last game was the one time where it felt like they were a little bit more precise. And hopefully they go into the bye and then they go against the Chargers. They look a little bit even more precise. And hopefully that's what we're building towards, is the consistency aspect. That's the way I saw it. But before we move on, I want to get to the defense, because we only got a little bit more time left. Because everybody was killing D'Amico the week before that, right? And rightfully so. The guy they dropped a 40 burger on us. So it is what it is. I thought that it was the fans got a little bit overboard. Yeah. It was one game that he really kind of dropped the ball in. But
are gone.
Yeah. But how many guys were they missing? But at the same time, the adjustments weren't there. You do have to hold him accountable for not really kind of adjusting to what was going on. I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah, we were struggling there at corner.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah. But at the same time, they were mentioning this, and I heard Croc mention this, I think it was a couple days ago, is he needs to get the base defense off the field sometimes, and put some more DBs in there, even if you don't have the best DBs out there. At least you got a little bit more speed out there, but he kind of sits in his base defense even sometimes on third down. And it's not, and granted, you have really good linebackers, but sometimes you need some speed, and especially against a guy like Mahomes, who's just going to who was just picking you apart I mean, I think you had to counter. They weren't running the ball. They weren't killing us with the run. It was really came down. They weren't doing that until later in the game. Like
they were consistently
like
converting
in the beginning of the game, they were just killing us, killing the zone. And it was, and even when they went man, like he was taking advantage of that. So I mean, I just would have liked to see him make some more adjustments. That's all. Like, but
Fair.
What grade did you give him in this game? And he had some early struggles. Like they had some early struggles. They went right down the field the first like couple of drives.
Right.
But did you like? We'll start with you, Jamal. Did you see more out of D'Amico? Did you see any adjustments?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll go much quicker on this one. That way I'm not ranting over you guys.
No.
So yeah, no, I thought D'Amico had a solid game. Or overall, solid. Like you said, those first couple drives, they were able to kind of move down the field on us. But that's not the first time we've seen the Rams do that as well, too. And to be totally honest, that's not the first time we've seen the 49ers do that to some teams as well, too. But what do we call those first couple drives? Scripted plays as well. Yeah. So you have certain scripted plays that you've been practicing all week. And let's be real, a lot longer than all week, especially if you've played divisional guys like this before. You've got some of these plays drawn up that you were waiting to use maybe for a couple of years because there's only a certain amount of scripted plays you can use per game, right? And so that being said, listen, the Rams understand and know that they can't run the ball very well on us, and they understand that they can't keep Stafford upright very long, if that makes sense. Like their offensive line's not going to hold up forever. And right now, that's got to be the weakness of their team. So if that's the case, what did we start to see a lot through those first couple drives? And especially on that 17-play drive?
Screen to death.
Screen, right? Get that ball out. Let that defensive line who's rabid and hungry, let them get upfield. Let's work against that aggressiveness that they have, right? And they were able to get some positive plays. They were, right? They were able to move down the field on us. And then I have to be honest, too. To start that game, outside of those outside of those screens that they had, I thought Matthew Stafford started the game very well. I thought he had some pressure in his face. He had a couple. I think he had like a sidearm that almost was like an underarm throw flick to Malcolm Brown. Matthew Stafford started off really good. He had a couple really on-target passes to Cooper Kupp as well, too. Like he started off on fire. But I think that's a little bit of what you get with a Matthew Stafford. It's going to sound kind of funny, but maybe you guys will agree with this. Matthew Stafford is almost like the best version of what you would like Jimmy Garoppolo to be, if that makes sense, because they're both a little bit inconsistent. They both can struggle with accuracy. Matthew Stafford clearly has he's got a much better arm than him. But at the same time, like you'll see plays where he just misses guys too. And that's Stafford. To start this game, I thought he did a really good job of seeing his receivers, making a couple plays that just had to be made. Either the quarterback himself was going to make it or it wasn't going to be a good play because I thought the defense was playing that well, that quickly, and swarming the way that they did. Even their touchdown, I think we touched on it a bit earlier at the beginning. They didn't trust their run game, and so they weren't able to kind of rush the ball once they got inside the 10. How many plays did it take for them to actually score that touchdown? And how did they score it? With one Mr. Matthew Stafford actually running it in instead. So I look at that game and I say, the Rams started off solid, but after that and through the second half, they couldn't do anything. I believe they only had 65 second half yards. So, and I haven't had a chance to go back because I want to watch the football game again to see exactly what the adjustments were. But on a broad scale thing and what I've been looking at, and I've been talking with Nate on our podcast as well, over the past 3 to 4 months. Yes, we're still heavily missing Armstead, and we are still missing Kinlaw as well, too. I think people don't like to talk about that as well, too. I know Kinlaw's not the greatest player in the world, and yes, he's had some health concerns, and he's been on and off the field.
He was playing really well.
He was playing very well, and he's still let's be real. He was playing well, and he's a big body, and big bodies in the middle of your defensive line, they command other bodies to come help out. He was taking double teams. So was Armstead. Those are two big bodies that are no longer playing. And in my humble opinion, I think it's been the reason teams have been able to stay on track within their offense and continue to get into third and shorts, third and twos, third and threes. The Rams were doing that on their first 2 drives. You would see them try to run and maybe get 2 or 3 yards. Honestly, they were getting about 4 or 5 yards early on to get themselves into third and shorts to where they would allow Matthew Stafford at that point to be Matthew Stafford and make a play or two, right? That's the reason they got rid of Goff and they brought in Matthew Stafford. Okay, this is the money down. I need you to make something happen. We're gonna have our running backs try to grind it out these first couple downs, get us into third and manageable, and they were able to do that. In the second half, I thought the 49ers showed that the ability to get off the field on third down again. If you look over the course of the game, I believe the Rams still went 8 of 13, and that's on third downs. That's been a stat over the past month I've been tracking really well because I think that really that helps teams get off the field, right? And so although they were still 8 of 13, that second half, we were starting to make more plays. And so when you needed a big play from, I almost said Jimmy Bosa, from Nick Bosa, you got it. I know. When you needed a big play, you were able to get a big play from your guys. I thought Fred Warner, I thought he brought the attitude that this defense has been needing. It's kind of been lacking over the past couple of weeks as they've been searching again. I think when I think of Fred Warner, he's a really good, if not the best, coverage linebacker in the league. But I thought more than that, he brought the physicality in this game as well, too.
In this game,
in this game, yes. Multiple times I saw him making plays at the line of scrimmage, also behind the line of scrimmage, particularly on Malcolm Brown. Now, he's not the Rams starting running back, but I think in this game he was due to some injuries. He's a bigger type running back. He's a bigger dude. Yeah. And I saw multiple times where Fred Warner kind of played in a similar way to Dre Greenlaw, because I think Dre Greenlaw is, I would say, probably the more physical, or I don't want to say he's not more physical. He's more of the bigger hitter of those two guys. But I thought Fred Warner brought that type of energy to this football game, as well as his coverage ability and other leadership. So, like I said, I didn't want to rant too long, but that's kind of my overarching thoughts on this defense. Thought they played really well after they settled into the game after those first couple drives.
Yeah. So Twin, because the reality was that, like I said, I know you don't agree with kind of our take on as far as DeMeco's, he obviously had people out, but how do you feel about the game plan this past game, and how did you feel that what grade did you give him?
I think he adjusted well. You know what I mean? Yeah. Quick little piggyback. That last game we played against Kansas City, y'all know we were in the game the entire time to the third quarter, and our offense once again sputtering when they had their healthy players out there.
Talk about it.
Getting safety,
I agree.
Turn the ball over, getting interceptions, and when we didn't, and putting the defense in bad situations where they've been on the field long and have to go against the most potent offense they've seen since I don't know, Tom Brady in 2009 or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And so you put your defense on the field for majority of the second half without your offense doing anything. Eventually, what we talk about our team throughout the entirety of the spring training is what the depth of the defensive line.
Right.
Why did our cornerback room, we was so we were bloviating about oh my God. Last year we was like, oh goodness, we got Josh Norman and Dante Johnson out here. This year we're like, hey man, we're deep. And then next thing you know, Shavar's guy to put out. He was playing hurt anyway. E-Man's not out there. Dude, so I'm looking bro, if we would have assisted him a little bit and gave him some help, the defense the tire blew out on him. And that's what we saw at the end of that game in the Kansas City game. So that's why I was I don't give DeMeco all that flack, because offensively, we would sit there and look at the defense not take care of business, but then look at the offense and gave them a wonderful pass for not executing and giving the defense something to go.
I didn't give him a pass.
But that interception would have made it a one-score game had we got a touchdown on that. That one that Jimmy threw to Joshua Williams.
Yeah. I absolutely did not give this offense a pass. I thought it was a complete team loss.
Everywhere I was watching KNBR, I was watching 95. Everywhere I was like, this defense, this. I'm like, bro, the defense literally was our saving grace for 5 weeks in a row. You tell me we can't give them a little help for one game and show some type of explosiveness, because we just scored 30 for the first time without the defense actually having a pick 6, in the entirety of the year.
We talked about that last time you were on. Remember?
Exactly.
We said at the time, you you cannot expect this defense to in this era of NFL to be the Ravens of 2001 or 2000, whatever.
And they still were through 5 weeks. Yet it's their fault, not the anemic offense's fault. Come on now.
Go ahead, Twin.
No, and pretty much the majority of our convo today has been about what? We got too many what?
Weapons.
So we got a team where we sit here thinking like, is there enough pie to get passed around to all the individuals that are here at the table? But then again, we couldn't necessarily, but anyway, neither here or there. Going back to this game.
It's not just you saying it. I said it too.
We literally, I thought, like I said, we was getting, it was 1,000 screens on the table, man. Like first half of the game, the first quarter pretty much. And they were, like I said, pretty much dinking and dunking. I thought they replicated some of the things that Kansas City and Atlanta Falcons did with our pass rush, knowing how our guys like to pin their ears back. Definitely how Chris Eric teaches them to just pretty much attack. And I think they used that aggressiveness against us. And we waited too long to kind of go by. To switch up our defense because it wasn't like they were giving big chunk plays or they were passing the ball down the field. I don't think they even have the personnel to do so. Allen Robinson is not a deep ball catcher. He doesn't run like great vertical routes or long passing plays as well. So I think we just necessarily didn't turn on the switch quick enough. But once we realized, like, hold on, and this is why I don't take our win. It's a good win, but I don't take it like, oh my goodness, because they don't have nobody. They don't have no outside speed. Vance Jones was hurt pretty much the entirety of the year. He's just coming back. They don't have a running back. So even when Fred Warner, like he was hitting people, I was like, Fred, you couldn't hit that boy in Atlanta like that at all. Because
right.
Running you over, but you got this little rinky-dink guy in here. You want to flex real hard, but I'm going to give you a pass. You did what you're supposed to do because they don't got a running back. So I think he put the guys in position to go out there and execute, and they did what they needed to do. He suffocated he pretty much, I think they did what a lot of teams do for us when we become very one-dimensional and when they know what we're going to do. That's what our defense did to them. They knew they only had Cooper Kupp. They wasn't going to pass the ball deep. The running game was suspect. And so they just pretty much say, okay, we just go pin our ears back, man up, and just go in there and smack them in the mouth. So I think he did a good job of just saying, hey guys, we just the more talented team. Yeah. And I'm gonna just go let my players be players, and y'all just go out there and beat the brakes off of them. And so we had fried lamb for the rest of the Sunday evening. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah. So
just the last thing I'd say there too, just
quick.
And to Twin's point there, and Peter, you've heard me say this because I've talked about this even last year as well too. What was the switch to where we were allowed to start getting home on Stafford, right? What was that switch? Mm-hmm. And I've said this before. Football, you have to marry both sides. So once we were able to start putting up points the way they couldn't just run the ball to set up these, third and shorts, that allows us to be in positions to where we can start teeing off because you do get up 21, 28, 14, ultimately 31-14. And by the time we were up 31-14, it wasn't even like the Rams were trying to get back in the game. They kind of they kind of put the white flag in. They kind of white flagged that one. And we're like, okay, there's not much we can do. And that leads me to just this last point that I'll say. When the 49ers and the Rams play, and I'm not used to saying this, I feel the margin of error is much smaller for the Rams than it is the 49ers. And that's kind of weird to say. There's a certain way the Rams, I feel, have to beat us. They have to manage the game. And it has to be a little bit more low scoring than high scoring.
Yeah, right now, because like you said, they really don't have running backs. They have Cooper Kupp, and Allen Robinson has been a disappointment thus far. So, there's really nothing else. The cupboard is kind of bare. And I think they expected to get somebody else, but just nothing is materialized. And it is what it is. But yeah, it is what it is. But so I want to get, because I know Jamal's got to go, but I got one more question for the both of you, and then we're gonna get out of here. Is this bye coming at the perfect time for the 49ers? How do you think this team comes out against the Chargers?
Yeah, did you want me to take that or Twin?
Oh, go ahead.
Doesn't matter to me.
Go ahead and start, Jamal.
Okay, sure. Yes, 100%. I think this is the perfect time. Funnily enough, I said this at the beginning. We're still trying to figure out what this 49ers team actually is. Yes, when healthy, especially defensively, we've been able to hold teams well below their points per game average. And so I'm I'm confident when healthy, this defense will continue to do that. I'm still more concerned about the offense until they prove it to me, until they show it to me. I'm not as concerned or worried about our defense. The offense has to consistently show me. And I think they can. I think now that we're getting healthier, like to me, I've said this is go time now. We already know. And I mean, I can say this, you guys can say this. We all understand this. We are going to be hopefully sooner than later. The hope is we get Armstead back. Hopefully at some point, it would be cool if we can get Kinlaw back. I don't know if that will happen. I'm more certain that we'll get Armstead at some point this season back more than Kinlaw. I would love to get them both back. Even Kinlaw in a reserve role to where he's playing, a limited amount of snaps per game. I think his impact still will be felt in that regard too. So I'd love to have those two guys come back. To me, and I was going to mention this a little bit earlier, but I think now is a good time to mention it. The fact we didn't make any sort of trade at the deadline for a corner in any way says it's like, I think that's good though. I think it says more about Verrett than it doesn't without putting that into words. To me, I'm going to take it positive. I'm going to say, hey, he's trending towards the right way. And then it's like, yeah, I'm praying that's the case. But the fact that they didn't, to me, says they're a little bit more higher on his upside of coming back and the potential for him to play than they aren't. And so at this point, right, it's going to be Womack, it's going to be Ambry, it's going to be Verrett, and we still have Charvarius Ward. If Verrett is able to stay healthy, I think he can have a similar impact to the way Mosley was having. Mosley's been awesome the last 2 seasons. Like underratedly good. I think he should have been a Pro Bowler last year. I think the way he was playing this year, he should have been a Pro Bowler. I think he's been that good over the last 2 seasons. And I still think, although it may be a 1-year deal because he's coming off of an injury, I still think he should get paid. I don't know who that'll be by. Hopefully it's still by the Niners. But long story short, you're getting these guys coming back. I'm not worried about the defense. I think the defense will still be good because you do still have Jimmy Ward. Yes, he's playing with that cast, but he's still a good vocal leader. He's still 9 times out of 10 going to be in the right position to make a play. Now, might he get an interception or not? I don't know. He's playing with the club in his arm, but he's still going to be in position. You've still got Tashawn Gibson, who's been playing lights out. He's been playing really, really well. As I said that, I'm thinking of the Higbee play where Higbee dropped it that could have gone for a touchdown. I'm thinking about that play, but every player has plays where they don't play great. That play, he messed up on that play, but he's been playing real well overall. Talanoa Hufanga has had an awesome start to his season. I don't want to say he's fallen off, but he's had some games that were a little bit more quieter, and he's missed some tackles that he shouldn't be missing. And I know he's a second-year player. That's no excuse. Tackling has been something he's been good at. He's been good at that since last year. So the fact that he's missing some and taking some bad angles, I don't like it. I don't love to see it, but he's aggressive, and I like the way that he plays still. He still deserves to be a starter. I've got no problems with him. Let me wrap this up. To me, it comes down to this offense. There's, like you guys have been saying, it's too many weapons. It's not you have Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's truly going to be up to him. I said on my show with Nate, I thought, and this was before the McCaffrey trade, I thought this team, this might sound weird, but I thought this team goes as far as Brandon Ayuk's development could take them, if that makes sense. I like Brandon Ayuk a lot. I think he's a good receiver, but I think when you're looking at wide receiver, it's not you can't do it by yourself. And so if Jimmy Garoppolo and Brandon Ayuk's development, or if Jimmy Garoppolo can use Brandon Ayuk and help him develop. Now, he's not going to be able to throw down the field all the time. I'm not saying Brandon Ayuk is going to have 100+ yards every game, but if he can consistently get him involved like he has the last 3 weeks or so, I'm cool with that because it's been 6 catches, 81 yards. 2 weeks ago, 7 catches, 82 yards. 3 weeks ago against the Falcons, 8 catches, 83 yards. So when targeted, I've seen him have some production. I like that. I'm not saying he has to have 100+ yards because he's not going to be the number one option. It's still, in my opinion, probably going to be Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. I think it'd probably be both of those two guys. I'd like to say Kittle, but I haven't seen enough to say that Kittle's going to be put in that position, right? Yeah. I'd like to say it. So I think for me, this team goes as far as Brandon Ayuk and Jimmy Garoppolo's connection can take them. We've seen multiple times where Brandon Ayuk does get open, and it's been either a misthrown ball. But I mean, I've seen this year too, and I'm just trying to be fair, where Jimmy Garoppolo has thrown him a couple jump balls where he was covered well, but could have made a play. And
Yeah,
Brandon
exactly.
Ayuk didn't make a catch. Like, both hands were on it, and he didn't make a catch too. And that's not me ripping on either one of them. That's me being fair. And I like that, though, because it's Jimmy Garoppolo giving his dudes a chance. That I like. That I want to see more of.
Got you.
This offense shows me something. We should be able to go far. Limit any turnovers, or limit turnovers to maybe 1 or 0. I think this team can still go far based off the back of their defense, based off of a running attack that I think is going to improve over the second half of the season.
Got you. What about you, Twin?
I think like we play against the Chargers. This team hasn't been that good this year, to be honest with y'all. The AFC West was hyped to be something that it hasn't been.
Exactly.
We've seen a lot of bad losses from not only the Chargers, but from the Oakland Raiders as well, and from the Denver Broncos. So, like, I'm excited. I mean, we want to play the Chargers. I think we should beat this team. But then again, outside of our conference play, I don't know what we're getting. I really hope that we pay attention to, like, this guy. I mean, Mike Williams was hurt, I believe, last couple games. He was going through some injuries or whatnot. But Austin Eckler is a Swiss Army knife back there in the back.
Eckler.
Yeah,
he's
Eckler,
like their CMC.
Yeah, he's a beast. The tight end is pretty decent. But I think we should get a W. I think we got to make sure that we. I don't know. I think I need like a 4-week span. I can't look at this team no more in like week to week.
Yeah,
because we fluctuate too much. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Got to be consistent.
We too Jekyll and Hyde. So for me, I need like this next month. It's November. You know what I mean? No shave November. What's up to everybody who's not shaving for November? But like, we need to make sure that I want to see them in the next 4 weeks to see what are we going to do. You know, what are we going to stay consistent with? And if we play against the Chargers, are we going to run the ball 30 times a game and try to play ball controlled and hold the ball for 35 minutes a game? Or are we going to, allow our offensive weapons on the passing, game to go out there and make some plays and get some touchdowns? I think we shouldn't average no less than 28 points a game. I'm sorry. I can't look at this roster and you tell me our next 30-point game probably won't be until we play another Division 4. I'm not cool with that. You know what I mean? It's just too much. Like, you got too much firepower back there. So
yeah, exactly.
If this team go in next week, well, not next week, but the week after next, and we put up at least 28 points minimum, and the offense look like we're like expanding and not having to be just this one. Y'all remember like last year, or even this year in our wins, it's like we either got to run the ball, rush it for 30 times, no turnovers, averaged at least 4.2 yards per rush. Like, everything had to be like, our margin of error was so small. I don't want to see that in the next couple of weeks. I want to be able to say, even if Jimmy do throw an interception, even if we do miss a deep pass, bro, look at these people. Say, bro, man, okay, whatever, we missed the interception. Okay, you threw one. Don't worry about it, Jimmy. Let's go out there. We can score in the next 2 minutes or 2 minutes in like 30 seconds, and we good to go. Because I think that shows confidence. That shows belief. That shows swagger. Like, that's one thing I think we don't have. Like, give me some sauciness. You know what I'm saying? I'm Southern, man. I love the sauce. Show some swagger. Show some confidence about this squad, man, that we got coming up. And if I see swagger, I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, the ability to say we should go out here and put up some points. And I think we should see a different team, far as what we can do coming up in week, whatever it is, 10, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it'll be week 10. And the way I look at this is that I do think that this bye week could not have come at a better time. I think that there's a lot of guys that on this squad that are right on the verge. They were right on the verge of coming back. And they got a lot of guys that are nicked up. Bosa and Mooney Ward both have groin injuries, which they need time to just sit out. Like, because groin injuries they're not going to get better if you're still playing. They're never going to get better if you're still playing on them. So yeah, they needed some time to just sit down and rest. And I think that it's going to do this team a world of good. And I expect them to come out against the Chargers. I think that is it at I didn't check. Is it at the Chargers? Is it at SoFi again?
And Kevin Willis is supposed to be coming back. Kevin Givens or Willis, one of them supposed to be coming back too on the defensive end.
Yeah, so I just think that they, regardless of any of it, I think they should.
It's a home game.
Oh, is it a home game?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I've been thinking about going to.
Yeah, they need to come out with a purpose. It needs to be a purpose. I loved everything both of you. You guys both made great points as to things that we could see and things that we should see. And it's unfortunately for us, Kyle never really listens to the fans, never really does the things that are obvious. Like I always say that he likes to zig when everybody thinks he's gonna zag, and that's just Kyle. But I'm hoping that this season and the beginning of last season should show him that, hey, look, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. Just do the obvious. That you've got all these weapons on your team. Just figure out a way to get him the ball and stop trying to outthink your opponent when you've got the matchups. Every single game that you're in offensively, you've got the matchup.
Pride.
It doesn't matter where you look on the field, you've got a matchup issue. So I just want to see him take advantage of those matchups, and I think that's what we're really looking for going into this game, that Week 10 game. I love that they're getting a bye right now. But hey, guys, I really appreciate both of y'all coming on. I thought it was a great show. We got into some deep conversations about this team and like down to the nitty gritty, and it was no pun intended, breezy. Hey, why don't one more time, Jamal, you start with you. Where can they find you this week, and what do you got going on?
Yeah, so last thing I'll say, just my closing comment in regards to everything we've said today. Once again, thank you guys for having me on. It's been awesome talking with you guys. I always enjoy talking with other faithful 49er fans and catching other people's thoughts and opinions on it. I'm a social worker by trade, and so I enjoy, and I've taken a lot of psychology classes too. I enjoy talking back and forth with different people and seeing how and why they think certain things, because it helps expand my knowledge and my thoughts on things as well too. I'm not the type of guy that thinks I know everything or anything like that. I love taking more knowledge in. That being said, I also think Twin said something that I really like. He said he needs to see, a stretch of games, right? Seeing over the next month or so. I love that, because you got the Chargers, outer non-division game, but you got a quarterback in the Chargers who is very good when he's healthy. I don't know how healthy he is right now. We'll see. Yes, he's been struggling over the past few or so weeks, but when he's healthy, he's one of them aliens. He's one of them different type of quarterbacks. Yeah, so when he's good. So maybe we'll see what we get from him. But I agree. That's a game we can win. You got your Chargers, and then you got an interdivision game, right? You got the Cardinals. Recently, over the past few years, they have given us some problems, even when it wasn't Kyler Murray playing. But this year in particular, we've seen with the Niners, these mobile quarterbacks, we haven't found a way to really beat these mobile quarterbacks yet this season. I don't know if that's a trend. But I'm looking at it. I don't know if it's a trend, but I'm looking at it, if that makes sense. So the Cardinals haven't been very good this season either. So that should be a W, but it's an interdivision game. You never know how those games go. And they play down to Twin said that. Chargers, yes, they do. Chargers, Cardinals. Then you play the Saints. While I don't think the Saints are good offensively, they have a couple good pieces. Defensively, I do still think the Saints are a good team. Defensively, they just shut out the Raiders, and it's the Raiders, but the Raiders got some pieces. They just shut them out. I watched that game. And then you've got the Dolphins after that, and that's a game I think a lot of 49ers fans have had circled just to see how we perform against Mike McDaniel. And not even just Mike McDaniel. If you look at the Dolphins roster, they've got some good pieces. They got some boys over there, and they got some boys that used to play with us too. And Jeff Wilson Jr., you got your Trent Sherfields, you got your right. So you said a month, and I was looking like, what? Who do we got on the schedule the next 4 weeks? We got some games. We're going to see an array of games that will tell us everything about this team. You got some teams you should beat. You got some teams that might give you some struggle, but I think you could actually go 4-0 if you play 49ers football. If you don't have any self-inflicted wounds, you could. We'll see what happens. But I like that. I wanted to point out, I like that. He said a stretch of 4 games. But yes, you can find me on Twitter. My title is right here, Young Jaw. Add the numbers 49ER to it, Young Jaw 49er. You can find me there on Twitter. I do a couple shows with Niner Nate, and then I also do a show with Amin the Dream as well too. You can find me at those two spots. Once again, gentlemen, thank you for having me on. It's been really fun.
What days are you doing your show? Are you doing them this week?
So this week, no, Nate's not feeling too well. Normally, we actually do it Tuesday, so I'm not doing one this week with Nate. We're gonna jump back in after the bye, so we'll do a show next week. And then Amin the Dream, I'm working with Amin. We're talking right now, trying to see exactly what day, but we should be doing a show this week, probably Thursday.
Awesome. All right, Twin. What about you?
What's up? So on YouTube, it's Twin Empire without the X2 on there. Wednesday, me and my brother, we do the Bearded Bros podcast on Wednesdays. Unfortunately, my brother's a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I'm a non-fan. So we go in here and we do a lot of like our weekly little brother podcast, man. Y'all make sure y'all check that out. It'll be on Wednesday, tomorrow around like 8:30 Central Time Zone. And then also on Thursday, I'll be on Ryan Hinksley in the morning. I think around.
Oh, you got on Ryan with Ryan too now?
Yeah, I'll be on with Ryan on
nice.
Thursday, I think at like 8:30 Central as well.
Ryan's
so I'll be there for the next couple of days. And yeah, man, make sure y'all sub to the channel. I'm 3 people away from a hun bun, you know what I mean? So
get that.
On the YouTube. So yeah, and also on Twitter. That's my Twitter handle right there, Twin Empire Times 2, man. So yeah, just catch me on there. I'll be tweeting away and having a good time in the spaces, man. Politicking and having fun with my fellow faithful out here, man. So just be having a good time, man. We're making this wonderful content with you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate the both of you coming on. It was a great show. And once again, you can find me. Obviously, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I am on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. You can get and all of them. All you got to do is punch in Niner Fanatic Podcast, and it'll pop up on whatever social media you want to go to. Plus, I got the audio version. You can get it anywhere where you can get your audio podcast. The biggest thing, I'm also on with Ryan Hensley's on Mondays. I have my show that I do sometimes on Mondays, sometimes on Tuesdays, and after the game. Then plus I have the Last Man Standing podcast with Niner Sickness and Chris Polo, and Forever Faithful podcast, and Rich Keltz is on that one. And we do the picks for the week for the whole NFL. And then also tomorrow I'll be on 49 Faithfully with Mariah and Jesse and TL and Chris Polo.
Love them.
So yeah, we busy over here. We working so it's but I appreciate everybody for watching. I appreciate all the people that got in the comments today. I don't care how you get it, just go ahead and get it. I get this content. So but we always end the show with, hey, go Niners.
Go Niners, man. Appreciate you, Pete. Good holiday, Jamal.
Yes, sir. Y'all be